I'd like to call the Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commission meeting to order. Conservation Commission. And I'm going to do roll call. I'm going to see that just for the record, I'm Marjorie Winters. Kevin McCusker is here. Jim Morrison is here. Jason Levy, Joseph Campolita, and Charles Halderman. And Charles, I think we will appoint you as the alternate for today you will serve as a full member today.
Okay.
All right. We have no public hearings, so we're moving on to new business. Receipt of new applications. So it's application number 20-03 of Robert and Stephanie Carroll, applicant, owner, to install above-ground pool with a deck on the property located at 62 West Mountain Road. Assessors map B11, lot 406, lot 012, zone R40. And good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Carroll. Are you here? There we are. Where are you?
Hi.
There you are. My right box. Sorry about that. So if you would like to introduce yourselves and tell us about your project.
Sure. So I'm Stephanie Carroll.
I'm Robert.
So we have 5 children, and as you can imagine, this has been a very challenging time home with all of them. And we've always belonged to Simsbury Farms, but we're just unsure what's going to happen, and also just the kids being around so many other kids. So we figured if we were ever to get a pool, now would be the appropriate time.
So can we put the application up on the screen for everyone?
I can certainly, if I have share screen. Laura, are they able to see what I'm seeing?
Yes, they are.
As you speak through it, Marjorie, I can scroll to whatever section.
Wait, we're not seeing it.
Yes, I'm not seeing it either.
So if you go down to the green button that says share screen and then click on your face on the shared screen, and then you'll have to PowerPoint or whatever.
Shared screen. Tabs. I want tabs. Oh, geez. Are we all learning with me here?
Sorry. It's nothing like learning under.
Yeah, it's nothing like being under the gun, right?
Oh.
Laura, I do not know how to share a tab. Basic.
Marjorie, can we just ask questions and just figure out the area?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
How about that?
All right, there we go.
Yeah, got it.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna put up the aerial.
Good.
So there's their general house, the proposed pool. The wetlands are to the rear of the house. The plot plan shows it as such. West Mountain Road being to the bottom of the page, the pool, and the wetlands kind of arc around through here if you're seeing my mouse.
Yeah. We don't have a map with showing the wetlands line, or is it that other black?
This would show the wetlands line right here. The wetlands line is the lighter shaded area. The darker area is the non-wetland soils type.
All right.
Wetlands here, non-wetlands here.
They're forested wetland?
Pardon? Yeah, it looks forested.
Forested wetland?
Yes.
Yep. If I recall correctly on this one, the pool, the option is maintained. All right, this one doesn't, I don't believe that this one has the drop off. Yeah, it's about 75 feet from the wetland soil type. From basically here to here would be about 75 feet. It's a fairly flat area. Obviously, the development that you see here was under construction at the time. It's mainly patios and such. But once you get out to that wetlands edge, it gets more heavily forested.
So this is Charlie Haldeman. So the actual pool and deck are not in the wetlands area, right? They're okay.
Correct.
No. Yep.
This is Kevin McCusker. So I'm assuming your pool chemicals are going to be stored in your garage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And what type of filtration system do you have on the pool? Is it cartridge or diatomaceous earth where you have to backwash the filter?
I think it's a cartridge.
Yeah.
It's a cartridge. So you really don't have to backwash the filter. Okay.
Correct.
Good.
And because we're going to be hearing a lot from pools, this is Tom, the agent again. The pamphlet from the building department does go over the significance of the impacts of backwash and stuff. So I just want to make our commission aware that they're always walked through that in the discharge of those liquids. But I understand that the discharge towards the wetlands would be not appropriate.
All right, and when we've had, this is Marjorie, when we've had other applications before us with pools, we have, during the fall drawdown, we asked that you'll be using chlorination for the pool? Is that it?
Yeah, the pool that we're getting has a system that can be converted to salt water, but I think we're going to start with just the chlorinated system.
So to dissipate the chlorine, we request when you draw down in the fall that you don't chlorinate within 1 week of the drawdown, and that the discharge be overland onto the grass.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did have a brochure. Tom, do we have a brochure anymore for advice for the homeowners for how to do that?
From a wetland standpoint, I haven't come across that information. I've just been working off of what the building department hands out for their full pamphlet on safety and backwashing. I could look closer for that. But I do understand it was the same in the last town that I was at about discharging towards wetlands and over flat ground and the like in order to minimize any kind of flow impacts, yes.
All right.
And luckily with this, it doesn't seem like there is a stream within a close proximity to this, so a water course or water body should not be impacted if they discharge in a thoughtful manner across the land surface.
And which way is the drainage? Well, the drainage would be down to the wetlands, wouldn't it?
Yeah, things go, if you're seeing my exhibit number 3, things are fairly flat up here, and then the topography drops off towards the wetlands to the rear. If they were to discharge off towards the front, it would probably be more appropriate.
This is Charlie. In the sort of the wetlands question that's with the packet, question 3 says approximately 15 feet from the pool deck to the water table. And
I honestly didn't. I mean, some of these questions I did my best in answering, but maybe that's.
What are the water table? What are you referring to?
I'm actually referring to I'm actually looking at on the application. I'm looking at Exhibit 2, which is essentially it must have been a set of questions, and I see.
I understand that, but I mean,
water table is the depth of saturated soil.
Okay.
Saturated materials.
I assumed we were talking about the level of the brook.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how the applicant would know some of these things.
Yeah.
It was very challenging to answer these questions.
So I figured we had 15 feet from where the level is of the pool to the top of the brook. I can't imagine the water table is going to be much higher than the top of the brook.
The brook. Yeah, no, I would agree. And so it's really, and that makes sense to me. I just was make sure I went interpreting that right. And that's actually how I interpreted it. It was 15 feet in elevation down to the brook, but I wasn't sure about that.
The water table can be higher uphill from the brook. It will sort of drain towards the brook.
Sure.
But it'd be hard, unless you drilled, I don't know how you would know that.
Right.
And it would vary seasonally, too.
Like where the house area is, it's very sandy. There's not much water when you dig down, unless.
Well, that's more important. So, are there any other questions the commissioners have?
I'm good. Looks good to me.
All right. So I would entertain a motion.
Marjorie, I'll make a motion that this item is a regulated activity within the upland wetland review.
All right. Do we have a second? All right. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Can I get the motion maker and the second, please?
The motion was Kevin McCusker.
Jason Levy, second.
Okay.
And then I'll make the second motion. The activity is not a significant threat to the wetlands.
Significant activity. Yeah.
Significant activity. Thank you, Marjorie.
Second.
I'm a little rusty.
We haven't met for a while. Because, do you want to give a reason for that?
It's not a significant threat to the wetlands. I don't know, because of
Well, there are no soil, no materials being removed.
no materials being removed. It's above ground pool.
All right. And do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. And the third part?
I motion to approve the application subject to special and standard conditions.
All right.
Second.
Second.
And who said?
Joe.
Okay,
Joe
Joe. Thank
seconded.
you. And all in favor?
Do we
Aye.
have standard and special conditions? I don't think we did in the staff report.
We did. That was the standard boilerplate I used. Sorry.
Hmm.
We have it,
I
Steph.
think standard. Yeah, I think the standard conditions would suffice for this
Okay.
as far as there's nothing complex here. I don't see a high level need for any kind of special ENS or anything like that.
Do you want to be notified before the construction starts?
I would think that would be a standard condition under ours, but if it's not, you could certainly put that I'm notified at least a week prior to installation.
Mm-hmm.
Amend that.
I'll second
Do you
that
want me to
again.
amend it, or do you want me to? Okay. Then I make a motion to approve the application subject to standard conditions.
All right. Thank
Second.
you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Your application has been approved.
Thank
Have
you.
fun
Great.
with the pool. Hope the kids enjoy
Thank
it.
you.
All right.
Peace and quiet with the 5 kids.
Never.
All right. Moving on to item B, application number 20-04 of Ronald and Mary Ellen Pollock, applicant owner to install an above-ground pool on the property located at 26 Redstone Drive, Assessor's Map E17, Block 201, Lot 053, Zone R40. And good evening, Ronald and Mary Ellen. There you are. All right. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell us about your pool, your project? Oh, I'm sorry. You're on mute. You're muted.
All right.
All right.
Well, while they're getting set,
Still muted. You
while
can't
they're
hear.
getting set up,
Oops, there we are. Where did they go?
while they're getting
Hello.
set up,
Hello.
Okay.
Aye.
there's-
Can you hear us?
Yes, now we can.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. So
We're also amateurs too at this.
yes. So anyway, nice to see you all tonight. We've been living here about 35 years, and just like the couple before us, we'd like to get all the grandchildren here and all our kids here for some summer fun. So we thought, we're not going to go on vacation this year or probably even next year. So let's get a pool and have some fun.
All right. So this is another above ground pool, and any excavation or just leveling for the site?
Just leveling for the site.
All right.
looking at the topography from what I've seen on our GIS, this is a flatter site than the last, and should need minimal grading, if any.
And you were able to hear us
Yes.
with the discussion about the drainage of the water in the fall. And will you be using a chlorinated system or?
Chlorinated.
All right. So again, 1 week before fall, stop chlorinating And any discharge would not be to a storm drain, but be overland on grass.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I don't really understand all of that, actually.
All right. So when you draw down your pool at the end of the season, to keep it safer from frost or freezing, any excess water, and not every pool drains down. I don't own a pool, so I'm not quite sure. But the when you draw down the pool in the fall, the excess water that you're pumping out has to flow onto the grass, not into the street down the storm drain.
Okay.
And when you stop chlorinating for that last week, a lot of the chlorine will go into the atmosphere and will make the water safer for discharge into the local wetland.
Okay, but not everybody does that?
No, that's what they're supposed to do.
Well, I own a pool. In fall, you drain the pool to like about 6 inches to a foot below the outtakes on your pool, so your lines don't freeze.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that people drain their pools, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought you just left the water in there all the time.
No, you got to drain it below the plumbing, basically.
Yeah, we have a lot to learn.
And you'll be storing your chemicals, your pool chemicals, in your garage?
Yes. Yeah.
Do the commissioners have any other questions?
I'm good.
All right. Then I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we find that this is a regulated activity as it occurs in the upland review area of the wetlands.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second, Charlie.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion that we find that this is not a significant activity as it is occurring outside the wetland and should have no impact measurable to the wetland.
Second, Charlie again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I motion that we approve this application subject to the standard conditions.
Second, Charlie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Have fun with your grandchildren.
Thank you so much. I just have one question. You want to know a week prior before the installation occurs?
That would, if you could contact the zoning office, the planning and zoning office, I would appreciate that. That way I know the activities going on. There will be a zoning compliance form with it, which I will have to review after installation. So you'll be good.
Can you send us an email regarding all this so we know? Don't forget to do that.
Yeah, I can send you a reminder email. I'm making note of that right now.
Thank you.
And I got one last question. So can we tell our when will we get the permit so we can have the installation started?
I'm going to sign off on your zoning compliance form the next time I'm in the office, and then it'll be in the hands of the building department until the installation is finished. And you can talk to Colleen Fenn in the building department about your building permits. But as far as zoning compliance is concerned, now that you have wetlands approval, everything meets our standards. You are approved to move forward.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to application 20-05 of Tim Carson, applicant owner to install an in-ground pool and with associated grading pool on the property located at 70 Simsbury Manor Drive, assessors map F-16, block 116, lot 060, zone R15. So,
Marjorie. I just want to put on record, I live 4 houses down from this applicant, as I'm not in a butter and I don't know them other than a friendly wave in the neighborhood. I don't think I need to recuse myself.
I don't think you have a personal interest in
I think you're fine.
Thank you.
I would ask one thing. Can I ask one thing of Mr. and Mrs. Carlson? I'm showing the plot plan, and I'm wondering if those are, one says 14 by 28 to the left and one says 14 by 30. Are those two different locations, or is the 14 by 30 the pool and the 14 by 28 some other structure?
Yes, the 14 by 28 is a shed. We put in, actually, if you look to the left-hand side, it looks like someone put that, kind of wrote in May 17, 14 by 28 shed with electric.
I apologize to the commission if my review was a little bit, that showed two options. I was a bit confused about that. It looks like the pool will be the 14 by 30 to the right side of the home.
Correct, yes.
So
they're so very similar. Sorry.
Yes, they are.
So, Mr. Carson, is it Carlson? Is it
Carlson, yes.
Carlson. On our minutes, it says Carson. So, good evening, and would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your project?
Absolutely. So, Tim, this is my wife, Jacqueline. So similar to the first couple, we have 3 young children, and we're looking to get a pool. To, I think we're not going to be going anywhere for a little bit. And as we're looking to kind of make this our forever home, we thought it would, be something that'd be nice for the kids, growing up, through the years.
All right. And this is an in-ground pool. Do you want to tell us when you plan to construct and how you'll go about it? How is it?
So it'd be in the late June timeframe, pending the ordering and the backlog they have for pools. If we're going through the company in Vernon, and they're going to be installing fiberglass pool. Fairly basic. You can see as Tom's kind of scrolling over the streams in the upper right corner there. Kind of, it's the tail end of the property in the upper right corner.
And what is this the topography on the site?
So right in the very back corner, there's a little creek back there.
So it slopes towards the creek?
It does, yes.
How much lower in elevation?
You can show them.
Yeah.
How much lower in elevation is the creek than where the pool's going to be?
Oh,
from what
pool?
I saw. I'm sorry. From the town topography on the website, it's a very flat lot with some gentle sloping. But I'll let the applicant speak more because they do live there.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to grade off for the pool itself. They said it was a couple of feet from like the pool area itself, but then as you continue to go further down towards the stream, it does continue to just slope down. So it's a number of feet, because even at the stream itself and dropping down, there's a multiple feet drop down.
You could show them.
Well, is it like 5 feet or 2 feet?
I'd say like 3 to 4.
3 to 4 feet. Okay.
From the stream itself down to the water.
And
that looks. I'm sorry, but that looks like it would be somewhere over a 50-foot line from the markings on the plan. 5 over 50.
How deep is the pool going to be? And actually, more importantly, how deep is the excavation for the pool going to be?
So the pool's going down to about 6 feet, like 5.5, 6 feet. And then they dig out, I believe, and I'm using approximations. I know it's about a foot-ish, because they put some rock below that, some stone below that for the pool to sit on.
So it sounds like you're getting pretty close in the excavation to where the sort of the water table would be at the top of the stream, right? Does that sound about right? Am I hearing you correctly?
It's a little bit hard to say because the land does continue to kind of slope down from basically that pool area all the way down to the rest of the stream. So it's a little bit hard to say. Yeah.
Okay. Have you talked to your contractor about managing saturated soils? So as you dig down, if you hit the water table and the soil is wet, it can be very difficult to manage. And like a regular truck that he would bring to take out the fill, he wouldn't be able to use if the soil is wet. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of different options. He can spread it around and let it dry out for a couple of days, or he can get a lined truck to take it off site. Have you had that conversation with them yet?
We have more conversations around the control around like the the silt sheet for the erosion, so we're not actually so things don't go into the stream. So he's using the bales of hay and the silt, but we didn't specifically talk about if we hit water, the options for that now.
Okay. And what about staging the soil after it's excavated?
Like where we're gonna put it?
Yeah.
So there'll be a little bit for just kind of smoothing out from the cement area down to the existing property, and then they were going to take out the rest.
Okay. And so you don't know if it'll be stored on site overnight, or if it will be taken immediately out?
I don't have specifics on that. Is there a preferred one, Jenny?
Well, taking it straight out is better. So if he leaves it on site, you may need to put in some additional erosion and sediment controls around the stockpile.
Okay.
Because once it's excavated, it's extremely loose, and it'll just go if there's a little bit of rain on it.
Sure.
It'll really move.
Okay. Yeah, I can talk to him.
Jim, just for a little piece of info, in looking at the soil types on the site, while the brook was associated with some ripaway, fine sandy loam, the rest of the site seemed to be well drained or excessively well drained. So I would hope that dewatering should not be an issue primarily, I would hope, but that could be definitely worked with any on-site storage.
Hey, Tom, I was looking at the town's wetland map beforehand, and I think there are mapped wetlands at this house, right?
The GIS that I use that has the official map on it just shows the stream, and when I went into NRCS, it kind of mapped just the same thing that we were showing. It had a little ribbon with the stream. I didn't use the general town one because our official site is on my kind of town access. And that's why I didn't show any wetlands. I just showed the stream on that map that was on the town staff review. I tend to use those two, which is our official, and then the federal map.
Okay. All right. That's good.
I ask a question about the plot plan. What does it mean by Russell Brook relocation?
I'm sure when the subdivision was done, and if I can see a date on here, which is 1962, before wetlands regulations, they may have rechannelized the stream and moved it.
Okay.
Marjorie, you're muted.
Will you be using a chlorinated system for the pool as well?
So we're using saltwater system.
Saltwater, okay. So how do we deal with saltwater drawdown?
I would say deal with the
same way, Marjorie, because chlorine's a salt too.
Yeah, it is, but it evaporates.
It breaks down in the UV light. The chlorine does. I don't think the salt does.
So, Tom, how have you handled saltwater in other towns? Drawdowns.
I've only known of one saltwater pool, and it wasn't really something that we looked into, but I would follow the same guidelines and use an overground. If anything, I would probably try not to have heavy salination, like you would not have heavy chlorination prior to the drawdown. You're going to kill your grass if you keep the salt too high, just like if the chlorine was too high. So I would think it would be in the best interest of the applicant to follow the guidelines of the saltwater system and to try to reduce the amount of salt prior to discharge.
Yeah, and it would be still better to go over land than to go into any storm drain. We don't want to drain to the storm drain.
It should be safe.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, and in that same vein too, you can always hire a company to come out and pump out the pool water and just take it off site for you, and it's not too expensive to do that. and that way you don't have to worry about your grass.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point.
And if you do have any pool chemicals, I don't know what any are needed. What's needed with saltwater treatment, but they will be stored in your garage.
In the shed, yeah.
In the shed, yeah.
And Tom, did you have any other specifications or?
I feel this is about it from the grade. I'm always concerned when an in-ground pool about excavation and grades, but this is a fairly flat lot as mentioned, and it sounds like their contractor, they're using a contractor, unlike some above ground pools that people install themselves. So I know who they're using, and I think that it should be a smooth operation. They're already talking about erosion and sedimentation control, so that's very positive.
So, if there aren't any other questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll do this motion again. I make first motion, the item is a regulated activity within the upland review.
Second, Joe.
Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. The activity is not a significant threat to the wetlands.
Significant activity.
Sorry, Marjorie.
All right.
Second, Joe.
All right, do you want to say why it's not a significant activity?
Yep.
Because it's within the guidelines of.
The sediment controls will be used.
Thank you, Marjorie.
All right.
I'll second that too.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And
I make a motion to approve the application subject to the standard conditions.
And I will second that.
all right. All in
Joe.
favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
And 1 week before before you're planning to do construction, if you could contact Tom. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Have fun with your pool.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. General commission business. Do we have any correspondence or anything? I know it's been a very quiet period with a lot of things have not happened that would have happened, and it certainly hasn't been a quiet time for staff. But is there anything we should be knowing about that's come?
There has been no major activities as far as development or any concerns regarding the wetlands or any kind of things coming up on that front. I will note that there's been some reviews going on of our regulations, and as we move forward and get out of this headache that is COVID-19, I'm going to request that we do a little review of our regulations to put them more legally in line with the state of Connecticut, because in some of the reviews, there's some areas where we could get into trouble and the state won't back us up, and we're basically their stewards. So we'll discuss that more as we go down the road, but I've just been working behind the scenes, trying to take a look at them, and also talking to the state, which is kind of out of business right now. Haven't been able to get through to our legal liaison at the state for a while. So when she's back online, she and I will have some discussions, and then we could all have a talk about it at a meeting further up the road.
All right. Can you tell us what areas in particular in our regulations?
It's been a couple of weeks since I visited it, but there's some things about our, us looking at groundwater, which is really not something that we can regulate. There's some other minor things. It's more the way that the state kind of wants it in order to support the town if we ever got taken to court would be to mirror their regulations closely. They don't have to be exact word for word, but we have to cover certain bases. I noted I can't be specific because I don't have the red line in front of me, but we were missing a few bases that they want us to cover, and then we were covering some things that are in the hands of other divisions at the state that they don't necessarily want us kind of denying people on, because it would draw us into court. But I'm looking forward to a higher level conversation, giving you guys copies of the red lines so that you could see what the changes are, and we could have a discussion about what, why, and where type things.
I know it's been a while since we've done our regulations, so thank you for catching the attention.
Yeah, no problem. It was just one of the orders for the time that we have away from the office.
If we're opening up the regulations, we had talked a couple of years ago about amending them to make it easier for us to hire our own expert if we had an application that was complex, but
that should be in there for sure.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That needs to be in there, and I want that in there because with complex applications, we do have the right under the state law to hire an expert if we feel that it's deemed necessary.
Yeah,
I mean, Simsbury doesn't.
I think the regulations provide for that now, except that the threshold for a quote unquote complex project is just absurdly high. So, our goal was to make it easier to get an outside expert.
Yeah. The only time I've had to run into that in the last two towns I worked for were very large operations where things were really woven into wetlands. And then also sometimes where you kind of were on the threshold of a denial, but it was a very contentious application and you wanted that outside expert to back you up. And we've drawn them in for that. I think we're out of the North Central Conservation District in Simsbury. We might not be, but we used to rely a lot on the North Central Conservation District to have an expert come in and review things and do some soil probing.
I know you had mentioned that, in order to have time to do all these sorts of things, because I know it can be a little tedious doing the regulation upgrade, you had suggested that we designate you our agent for these minor applications such as we've had tonight, really not very complex. And I thought Jim, do you remember? I thought we had designated. Do we have to do it each time we have a new agent, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've always done that in the past, and it's been different people.
Yeah.
My comfort level on that was always, while I'm authorized to be your agent and represent you, I always want to have a commission's approval to approve a simple application that, your sheds, decks, and some pools that are outside. I can't be in the wetlands. It has to be outside of the wetlands in the upland review, and it has to have no impact on the wetlands. And then that approval has to be presented to the commission at the next regularly scheduled meeting to keep you in the loop that I approve something. And then you always have the right to question whether I've gone above or beyond what you think my scope should be. And so with that, while you appointed me your authorized agent, we never approved me to do authorized agent actions. I just always want a commission to be on board with whatever activity that I may do on your behalf.
Yeah. So given that, I'd entertain a vote or a motion to designate Tom as our agent for these minor applications.
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
And
I got you, Joe.
And
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Any opposed? All right. Good. That will help.
Thank you very much. I'm much more comfortable now.
And that is. It's a pleasure for us too, because sometimes these little applications, they don't really require all of this.
Well, with people not taking vacation and spending more time at home, the amount of minor activities up to major activities at homes have increased almost tenfold over the last 3 months. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I thought for sure, we had a brochure about pool discharges. And
I'm going to make note of that right now.
And if you can't find one, I did notice some online that we could sort of modify. But it'd be good to have something to give the homeowners to take home, because once they've left the meeting, they don't necessarily have something.
Yeah, we had one in Windsor, and I could always pull that one to see if it's something that we like the language of, or if we want to tweak it, and then we could put our name on it too.
That would be good.
It's very innocuous, straightforward info.
that's good. But it's always nice for the applicant to have something to take home and maybe store away with other.
Yep. Well, as we noted tonight, some people don't know what they're getting into when it comes to maintaining a pool. It is like owning a boat.
All right.
My wife, well, the maintenance of the pool, she wants one. I'm like,
yeah, my wife wants one too.
All right, so
Don't do it.
Let's go
I
on.
have no
But I
desire
want a
to have
boat.
one.
I want a boat. So
That's what I want.
All right, let's move on to the approval of the minutes of March 18th. Did anyone have any changes or additions to the minutes?
There's no R in Haldeman, but that's
does that keep coming up? I made note of that. Oh, I will change that.
No problem.
I was specifically looking out for that, and I missed it.
All
It
right.
must be spell check.
So if there are no other additions, changes, we'll just file them as they are. And going on to Conservation Commission duty work.
Can I have you entertain a motion to approve those?
Oh,
Yes, I'll put forward a motion that we approve the minutes of March 18th, was it? 17th?
Okay.
Yes.
March that date, but I put forward a motion that we approve the minutes as corrected.
Right.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we're moving on to the Conservation Commission duty work. Tom, do you want to tell us about, we have been asked by the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen has been working on the town has been working on a project to, through the Trust for Public Land, to purchase Meadowwood. This is a very exciting project. It's great habitat connection. This was, when I first came on Conservation Commission Inland Wetland, it was, I think, January of 2001, something.
Yes.
And that was the first meeting for this Meadowwood project.
Marjorie, you and I would have met through that because I was on the North Simsbury Coalition at the time.
Yes.
So so here we are. We've come full circle.
Full circle. So it was for a large development. Much
horrible.
heartache, many hours later. We now find ourselves in the position that Griffin Land is interested in selling the land to the town. The Trust for Public Land is interested in doing this. We just had an open space meeting just 4:30 today, and this was presented to the Open Space Commission committee, and the committee has voted to approve will give a positive referral to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen is looking for letters from the various commissions and land use boards, and I wanted to bring it up for discussion today so that we could see whether this is something that the Conservation Commission would be eager to support. It's
I'll speak on it. This has been a long-standing project, mission, passion of mine. When in 2001, we formed the North Simsbury Coalition because we were very concerned that Griffin Land, which is the land development arm of Culbro Tobacco, was going to plunk down, I believe it was 620 homes.
Yeah.
And they used some statutes and things to try and circumvent a number of boards. We brought it to Conservation and Inland Waterways and talked about the aquifers, and it was a natural pathway for animals between Great Pond and the McLean Game Refuge and all that. And I would very much so support, be glad to support the project. I think it's a wonderful project. It's a beautiful field. The aquifers are not too deep there, and we should keep it as pristine as possible. So that's my impassioned plea for it. I would appreciate if the Conservation Commission could support it, and we would put forward our support of it to the Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
And part of the project is to a certain portion of it will go towards agricultural use as it has been used. A certain portion will be aside for a habitat. Another portion will, some area, a limited amount of the area will be put aside for potential soccer fields, and another area will be put for the 3 tobacco barns that remain there will be restored, and will be a Martin Luther King interpretive signage area. So there's an historical aspect to it, a sporting aspect to it. There will be walking paths. Again, the habitat connection between Great Pond and McLean Game Refuge is fantastic, and it's a wonderful opportunity for the town. We don't have much meadow in Simsbury, and this area would be maintained as meadow. That's a habitat we're sort of short on. It's a challenging time to do this project during the pandemic, depression, but
revenue constraints.
Yeah, but the Trust for Public Land was extremely determined to say that they're going to go on, and a lot of it will be determined on state grants and federal grants and various things. So we'll see how that goes in going ahead. But the first step is to say give support to the project. So,
Marjorie, how would we go forward with the letter? Would you be the author of the letter upon approval of this board?
Yeah, I will submit a letter. I will write a letter, and then I will send it to Tom, and Tom can distribute it to others if they want to edit or add anything. And then Tom will send it back to me. And once we get everyone, if everyone is agreeable that we will send a letter of positive referral to, the letter doesn't have to be very complicated, to the Board of Selectmen, then, and they need it by July 7th. So we've got time. So if I work on it tomorrow or whatever, I can get it out to you this week or next, and then you can get feedback. But I just, right now, is everyone in support of the idea of supporting this town purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. Is the plan available anywhere that we can look at?
They just did a presentation at the open space, but I don't know. Is it on the town website, Tom?
If you guys went through Zoom meeting for your meeting, we should have a record of it someplace.
It'll be on, yeah, the open space meeting will be on SCTV.
But Jim, I can see if there's anything floating around the office as far as a proposal. Obviously, a development would have your full subdivision proposal. This may just be a general proposal. I know that working with the Trust for Public Land prior on a large land acquisition in Windsor, depending on what grants are available, certain areas might have to be passive recreation, while other areas could be that. They might have like as Marjorie may have seen, a mock-up of what their proposal is, but
they do have they did do a presentation to the Board of Selectmen, so it's available through that meeting as well. But Tom, I would imagine you'd be able to get an access to that PowerPoint, and if you could send that out to the commission members, they'll get a better.
Do you remember who the representative for the Trust for Public Land was?
Yes,
it was Honor Lawler, I believe. Yeah. She and I spoke as well.
Yeah.
A couple months ago.
I worked very closely with Honor in Windsor on our acquisition of the old golf course in Windsor. So I could reach out to her and I could get pretty much anything I want.
And I know Mike Glidner, Tom Taberski, or Maria would have it.
Yep. Not a problem.
Because it was presented at the 4:30 meeting.
Yeah,
so Marjorie,
well, with how busy everybody is, I'm sure Honor will be quicker.
Yeah, that's true.
Marjorie, what would you like? A motion from the board saying the board supports the land and we recommend sending a letter to the Board of Selectmen?
That's what I'd like, yes.
Can I? Okay.
Joe?
I would make a motion that we support this purchase and draft a letter in support of the purchase to the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So I'll get a letter. It won't, it'll just, and then I'll send it through Tom to you all, and we'll go from there. And if everyone is in agreement, we should be able to move forward. If everyone's in agreement with the letter, unless anyone has editing or things we can send it out again.
As soon as you get it to me, I'll disseminate to everybody for a review. They can send back their comments if they have any, and then I'll get it back into your hands, and we can get that out the door.
Okay, sounds good. All right. It'd be a lovely project if it went through.
That'd be great.
All right. And then in the open space, the Parks and Recreation and Open Space Management Plan is still chugging along. It's been slowed down by the pandemic. But in April, the subcommittee that's working on it made extensive comments on the rough draft, and we're hoping to get another draft back, I think, within a week or two, and we're slowly moving forward with it. There's some parts of the open space. I wish the open space had been in a separate document as opposed to being lumped in with Parks and Rec, but this was the best we could do, and it was under that funding. So there's still some work to be done on it, but we'll see what happens there. Hoping to get it out, I think sometime in July. And I don't know if there'll be any public hearings unless it's a Zoom meeting, so we'll see what happens. Everything's kind of crazy. All right. Does anyone have anything to bring forward? Any issues, concerns? All right. I know we haven't met in a long time. So that leaves us down to adjournment. So would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Joe.
Let's get it done.
Wants to go. Like, what's wrong? We have a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Well, lovely seeing you all.
It was great to see everyone.
Great to see you all.